Hey guys, welcome back to Between Mile Markers. In our last video, we planned a trip using Adventure Genie's custom tool, and we planned the same trip using our very own personal genie.
In this video, we are going into detail exploring some of the stops along the way, things like where to stay, as well as things to do. Let's check them out. We planned a trip from Venice, Florida to Denver, Colorado using the two methods. Now it's time to get into the details of each of those stops. It doesn't matter if you use the custom trip or the personal genie option to create your trip. The important thing to note is that these next steps can be used for either option.
Now we flipped a coin and we're going to use our personal genie trip for the purposes of this video.
Now, as you can see on the big map, there is a tent located at each of our stops, which indicate that a campground has been chosen for us.
That's right. So what we want to do now is we just want to get into the nitty gritty and define this trip for each of our stops. So let's go ahead. Let's start with Arnold because that's one of our big ones. We want to stop and see some friends there. Now, as you can see, the campground that's been chosen for us is going to be highlighted. And you're going to see over here on the left the 4 tabs that we covered earlier. Now, the one that they chose for us is a little bit further away from Arnold than we want to be. So let's take a look at this campground here. And as you can see, that you're going to see a Genie score and a Genie match for each one of these.
So anyone can see the Genie score for a campground, but only users with a completed profile will see their personalized Genie match score for each campground. Now you can see that this Genie match is a little bit low. However, we will be able to look at the amenities to see why it's at that percentage for us. However, we might be able to live with what those amenities are. So we'll just take a little bit of time to look at it.
Sure. And as you can see here on the description, each park is going to have a Genie summary based on what it found for information on that park. It's going to list its amenities and its activities, and it's going to show you a map view. And it will also give you contact information for that park. And if you wanted to see even more, you can just use the link that they provide to actually visit the website for that park. Now, because it's a Genie match of 59%, we're just going to go ahead and we're just going to say, nah, thanks, but no thanks. We're going to keep the park that we have for right now. So we'll click out of that. And the next thing that we want to do is we want to go and we want to find some activities to do while we're there.
Now, I think our friends, they like to go to local breweries and stuff. So maybe breweries and maybe a tour of a brewery?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing to do in St. Louis is to visit the Anheuser-Busch tour.
Oh, how in the world do you spell Anheuser?
I don't know. Let's just do what we can spell. Let's do Bush. All right, so let's generate those.
Oh, there you go.
There we go. All right, so let's see here. We got the Anheuser-Busch tour. We got a Strawberry Creek nature area, and there's a meal and a local brew at this pub.
Well, let's do both of those, and yeah, let's nix the Strawberry Creek.
All right, so let's add those to our stay there. Now the next tab is the points of interest. Now points of interest is going to be just basic things that might be of interest along the way, and the default radius is set at 5 miles. You can change that to any one of these here, and if you wanted to, you can click even further into it and pick certain things that you would like to see. Under nature and outdoors, you've got educational, which would be museums. There's lifestyle, which is if you want to do some golfing or some marinas that might be in the area. For us, I don't know, are we going to have time to see any of these?
I don't think so.
All right, so let's move on past points of interest for right now. We can come back to them if need be. And then finally, you've got your notes section. Now, in the notes section, this is anything you want to put for that stop that you don't want to forget.
One of the things that we don't want to forget is to call the brewery for our tour.
All right, so now if we click back into our trip and we go down to Arnold, we can see now that we've got our activities that we chose, we've got our stays that are all set for us, and even our notes that we put in there. Now you can do this for each one of your stops along your route. So this is the way that you would curate that trip for you. Now, if you wanted to, you could even experiment a little bit and use your personal genie again and see if she can find you some activities to do along the way and add them based on what you have in your genie wishes. So there are lots of things that you can do with this program.
All right, in order to wrap up planning our trip, we need to just double check to make sure that the distance between the legs fits our daily travel requirements. We have to make sure that we have places to stay at each stop and things to see and do. And we also have to put the dates in for the range of the dates that we're going to be at each of those stops.
That's right. And finally, the last thing that you want to make sure that you do when you have all of this configured is you want to make sure that you save your trip, because you don't want to do all of this detailed work and then not save it. Finally, what you can do after you save your trip is you can even export your trip. Now, you can share this out to social media if you want. If you're a person that likes a hard copy of it, you can export it to a PDF file and print it out. Or if you're a spreadsheet person, you can export that to an Excel file. You can even export the trip to a GPX file, which you can then import into your Garmin systems for your GPS. So another cool option you can do when you save a trip is you can go into your saved trips page. And once you're in your saved trips page, on each of your trip, you're going to see 3 ellipses. And if you click on that 3 ellipses, it's going to give you some options. The first thing is going to be a make a copy of your trip. Now, you may want to do this because let's say you haven't quite refined it yet. You want to mess around with the Genie options or some campgrounds, things like that, to see how it may affect your trip. But you don't want to affect your original trip. So by making that copy, now you've got something you can play with. Now, if you go back into the 3 ellipses again, your second option is to share out this trip. Now, when you share a trip, you can include your campgrounds you're staying at, any notes that you may have, and all of your points of interest. And you can share that trip out to Facebook or Twitter, or if you want, you can just get a link and send that to friends or family through email or whatever, text, whatever format you guys need to. And then finally, the third option in that 3 ellipses is if you have a copy of a trip, or if you have a trip you don't no longer need, you could just go ahead and delete that trip right out and just confirm your option, and that trip is gone. So the next thing we'll want to do then is let's check out the campgrounds page.
Want ideas of where to travel? This page can provide inspiration for you. It allows you to search for campgrounds and give you results based upon your Genie matches and Genie score. All you have to do is start typing. You can try typing for individual campground names, specific locations, and even points of interest. Now, let's say you are going to go through Kentucky and you want to see what campgrounds are all in that state. Type it in, and then you can choose by the state, and it will give you a list that you can sort through and filter. All of them give you a Genie match score based on your preference criteria.
And it also gives you the instant book option if these campsites belong to Spot Tonight. Now, this allows you to actually check the availability right from Adventure Genie and book that campsite without leaving Adventure Genie website altogether. Now, down the left-hand side, if you wanted to, you could go ahead and you can filter these options by anything that matches your criteria. As you can see, our Genie matches are already pre-filled, so it gives us campgrounds with the best Genie match score. But if we wanted to, we could go ahead and apply discounts if we had those, affiliates if we had those, and we can even set our maximum site price, site length, and what the campground size is. Not a lot of people like the large campgrounds, so they may choose the small ones. Now, the next thing you'll want to do is if you click into one of the campgrounds, once you get into the page, you're going to see a lot of information about that campground. First thing that you're going to see is the Genie score and the Genie match, like we saw earlier when we were putting up campsites for each of our locations. You're going to see the Genie summary of that campground, its amenities and activities, photos of that campground, and even the map view. Now, the other thing that you're going to see is some of these campgrounds will have the ability to reserve online just by opening up a new window. If you wanted to, you could visit that campground's website. But let's say we haven't quite picked the campground that we want to stay at. We can just save that campground, or we can create a trip based off of this campground.
You'll have that.
Yep, random dude. Background.
We have planned so much with this tool already. We have planned a trip 2 different ways, exploring places to stay as well as things to do.
That's right. And if you guys need even more inspiration, well, in our next video, we're going to be covering Genie trips. These are trips that have already been curated for you and are all ready for your customization. If you've seen enough and you guys are ready to sign up, then use your phone to scan the QR code that's on the screen, or just use the link that's in the description below with the code that is also on the screen. And you guys are going to get 50% off your first year of the Pro Plan.
50%? That's a crazy good deal.
If you guys need more, then we'll see you in our next video.